What's going on? This is the Sports Counterpoints podcast. I'm GB, Brian, and Coop with me. What's going on?
Hey there.
Your mic just got
You
muted.
just muted.
I don't know why, Coop. It just muted on you.
Another week.
Yeah, there you go.
Man, I was still thinking about the result of the Kansas City Buffalo game, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. There's a lot of happy people. Yeah,
I live with one of
them. Today is
nothing but Chiefs clothing sense.
I left at the right time. I love being there, but man, I seen the Kelsey shirt when I was on Sunday, and I was like, boo, boo. I said it. She knew. January 28th, 2025. What you have today is the AFC and NFC championships are completed. We have our Super Bowl contenders now. So we'll talk about the AFC and NFC championship leading into next week's Super Bowl preview. We'll also talk about some of actually all, but looks like one vacancy in the NFL as far as head coaches are concerned have been filled. So we'll speak about that. And then Coop had a fun topic we want to throw in there too. So we'll get to that, talking about some faves. So let's get to it, man. It's Super Bowl teams are set, and how we got there is AFC and NFC championship, starting with the Commanders and the Eagles. Eagles win 55-23, one of the highest offensive point totals scored in a championship game for the NFL. What do you guys think about the game?
It's disappointing. I mean, obviously, we were kind of hoping to see Washington let it keep going and all that, but they just simply didn't. I mean, the story of the game here is just simple. It's turnovers. I mean, the Washington Commanders threw for more yards. They rushed for more not rushed for more yards, but rushed effectively. Jaden Daniels was leading the team in rushing, but they had 4 turnovers, 1 interception, and 3 fumbles. All of which led to scores by Philadelphia in prime scoring position. And then there was some other mismanagement throughout the game, but you can't overcome 4 turnovers in the playoff game. And the defense of the Eagles, which is supposed to be the best all season long, played like the best defense that day. And that's ultimately, how it all worked out. We can get into how Jaden Daniels played, if he played like a rookie, did not. I mean, he threw for 255 yards, a little bit short, but he was also playing against the best defense in the NFL this year. And so his effort was respectable. It just wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. Jace, what do you think?
This game, I didn't think it was going to be 30 points, but I knew it would be a double-digit victory. I had Philly -6. I was telling people all week, don't stay away from Washington. I thought this was going to be a totally different game. The reason why is because they were in a dome playing against a beat-up Detroit team, and they fully took advantage of it. Then they're going outside in the elements on the road to Philadelphia in a playoff game. That's too much for a team that with a roster like Washington to overcome, to only get 6 points or try to win this game. Turnovers did hurt, but the one constant that I think that was not talked about enough was the fact the first time these teams played in the fourth quarter, Philly scored on Washington's defense at will. In the second game, in the first quarter, Philly's offense scored on Washington's defense at will. The only reason that train stopped is because Jalen Hurts left the game in the first quarter, and Kenny Pickett, who is not a good quarterback, came in, and Washington ended up winning the game. In this playoff game, Hurts is healthy. Guess what happened with the Philadelphia offense? It scored at will against Washington. Washington doesn't have the horses to stop Philadelphia from scoring. That's pretty much why I took Philadelphia. Jane Daniels can do whatever he wants. You have to be able to stop Philly. Washington has proven, unless Kenny Pickett is playing, they're not stopping Philly. I mean, even the first run of the game, first play, Saquon Barkley goes 70-something yards on an incredible run to the end zone, and it just started right. It just started the avalanche right there. So I had no doubt that Philly was going to win this game. Yes, the turnovers, made the margin the way it was, but I think even without the turnovers, Washington was still going to lose by double digits because Philly is just a better team. Now, I'm not taking anything away from Washington. This team went from having the second pick in the draft to making it to the NFC title game. So it's not a slight against them, but at some point, your run has to end, and this was the predictable game where that run was gonna come to an end. So nothing against Washington, but Philly's going to the Super Bowl.
Well said, Coop. I agree. I thought Jaden, for being a rookie, it wasn't like they lost because of him. He dang near had the
No.
same stats as Hurts. They just, to your point, Coop, they didn't have enough, man. And we knew that all year. They overperformed drastically. We were talking about their
Yeah.
defense when the season started. And they
Yeah.
got here, and it's a respectable season. You
But
got a
think of
lot
the
to look
first
forward to.
drive. They had 18 plays the first drive, only came up with 3 points. You can't have that in the playoff game. You can't have 18
Gotta
plays and
score.
keep going for it on
Right.
4th down. You got to score a touchdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
So,
also can't give it to
yeah.
him, 3 times on your side of the field.
That was crazy.
Right? One
Oh
of them was
my
on the other
gosh.
side.
That too.
But 3
Yeah.
times it was less than a 45-yard drive necessary for touchdowns. That's,
Yep.
bad
How many
offenses
touchdowns
can
did
do
Washington
stuff with
score?
that. Good
Yeah.
ones can certainly do it.
Yep.
And Saquon
I mean-
Barkley, I mean, none of us even talked about it. He was a man amongst boys. And that final run that kind of put it all away, where he just broke one open. It was more like, when was it going to happen? And people will say, "Oh, well, he didn't run for 200 yards; he only ran for 120 yards." He didn't need to run for 200
he had
yards
3
because they
touchdowns.
were only exactly, because they were all the touchdowns were inside of the 20. That's where the balls were, the turnovers were, and so it was short fields and shorter touchdowns and not as many stats. But he could have easily have gone for 200 if he had to do full drives. He was running 8 yards a carry and broke the long one late.
He's real quick. He's potentially had the greatest season by a running back
I've
ever.
seen that.
And
I've seen that.
he was so good this year, Brian. I think we didn't even mention it because it's just so it's automatic. Like, of course, you know what I mean? You don't even, it's not out of the ordinary anymore. Like, he's been running crazy all year. Cool, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was 2 yards short of a couple of yards short of the greatest rushing season ever, and then you add everything else that he's done and where he came from and the whole situation. And yeah, I mean, even if he loses, because I saw some people talking about it, but even if he loses, there's a pretty good case that this is the greatest season by a running back ever.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl's on his birthday too. Be cold to watch a 3-peat on your birthday, but yeah, he had a great team. But Washington's offense is not like their offense was kicking. I mean, they only scored 2 touchdowns the entire game, one in the first half, one in the second half. So, like I said, it's nothing against them, but you're playing Philly at home in the playoffs. That's that's a lot to ask for that team to do. And so, nobody's slighting Washington at all for the loss or how much they lost by it. It's on the next season for them. They got some momentum.
Well said. Well said. So that was your NFC Championship. So Philadelphia Eagles back to the Super Bowl, and they're gonna face the Kansas City Chiefs again, like a few years ago when they played each other. Bills lose to the Chiefs 32-29. Very close game. That was our Super Bowl in a lot of ways. Although I am
Brian, you start because I'm still pissed off. Yeah, I'll go after you. Go.
Look, I mean,
I'll go after you.
We thought this might be the best game of the season. It was the best game of the season. Josh Allen threw for, what was it? About 8 yards less. About 8 yards less than Patrick Mahomes. And then on the rushing side, they rushed for 12 yards more. I mean, so the offensive output on both sides of the team was almost exactly even. There were, Josh Allen threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Patrick Mahomes threw 1 touchdown, 111 rating to 104 rating. Everything about this game was evenly matched. Any team could have won it if when you look at these numbers and you look at what happened. The only turnover of the game was Patrick Mahomes on a fumble. But when you go into the champion's house, you gotta throw haymakers, you gotta knock them down, you gotta knock them out.
Yeah.
They weren't able to do that. I'm sure. There are plenty of people like me and Glenn who were watching portions of that game and wondered how some of these calls went. There's been a lot of Monday morning quarterbacking and all that kind of stuff. But in the end, when you're playing the champion, goes for boxing, this goes for basketball.
Yep.
You have to knock them out. You can't just try to outpoint them. And the Buffalo Bills, unfortunately, never really got that knockout punch, never really made that big play, never did anything to really to separate themselves from what the Chiefs were doing. And the Chiefs stayed steady. Now, do I think that there were a lot of BS calls that went the Chiefs' way? Yeah, but guess what? Everyone expected that to be the case. And you have to go in there and find a way to overcome that in some major or significant way, and the Bills didn't do it. I feel for the Bills, man. Because they've done anything. This is another week with another tight end who had another situation. A lot of people were trying to put the loss on Dalton Kincaid because he didn't come up to catch. Like, there was a whole football game before that almost Hail Mary-like throw with Josh Allen almost about to get sacked. Anyone who's trying to put that on Dalton Kincaid just really doesn't understand football, because that was not the point where the game got lost. The point got lost the numerous times they're out there where they weren't able to find that knockout punch. It's unfortunate that it's yet another tight end on the losing side that is kind of getting blamed. It's been a tough playoffs for tight ends. Jason, what were your thoughts?
Okay, I can talk now. I think I can get this out. All right, so the Bills brought the Buffalo Ravens game plan to KC. I don't know why, but they did.
Buffalo Ravens.
This season, the season was about not being. This season for the Bills was about not being so Josh Allen reliant and not being predictable on offense, and they reverted back to that. That's why they couldn't beat. That's why they haven't been able to beat KC in the past, because they were Josh Allen reliant. They started playing conservative and scared. The Bills were 1 for 5 on that tush push, whatever you want to call it. But they kept trying. They were 1 for 5. It was obvious before that play started that KC's defensive linemen were bigger than Buffalo's offensive linemen. So that's why they couldn't get a push for a yard. And predictably, Tony Romo said Josh Allen likes to run left and he goes high. KC obviously knew this because they had their biggest defensive bodies on that left side, and that's why they kept getting stopped. Now, when the Chiefs lined up in that formation closely like that in the line of scrimmage, they never ran up the middle. Mahomes always bootlegged and got yards easily. That's what Buffalo should have did on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, but they kept trying that stupid play up the middle. With the Chiefs, man, I noticed a couple things watching this game. Mahomes runs a lot more often and aggressively against the Bills. I think it's something about playing him that makes him get hyped up, because he runs a lot against them.
He's sneaky fast.
The second thing, he is. And I've seen this for a while now. It doesn't get talked about enough. KC's defense always comes through in big moments. It doesn't matter if it's the Super Bowl against the Niners or against the Eagles or the playoffs against the Bills, who always beats the Chiefs. They always beat the Chiefs in the regular season, but they're winless in the playoffs. Steve Spagnuolo, the defense coordinator for the Chiefs, always calls the right blitz in the 4th quarter. He always has Chris Jones lined up in the right place in the 4th quarter to make a game-changing play. On the game-sealing play, it was 4th and 5. The Bills have Josh Allen drop back the pass, and Steve Spagnuolo sends a corner blitz to Josh Allen's right side, because everybody knows on 4th down, Josh Allen always likes to go right. The Bills weren't even expecting it, and their season came down to a Hail Mary on 4th and 5 that Kincaid couldn't come up with. But the corner, I saw the play. He was lined up over the wide receivers as if he was going to cover him. The next thing you know, he's in Buffalo's backfield, and game's over. It also made me think back to, I remember on the draft night where Buffalo got criticized for trading with KC. KC got Xavier Worthy, who had 6 catches and a touchdown in this game. And Buffalo got Keon Coleman, who only had 556 yards receiving this year. In this game, he had 1 catch against KC, just 1. He was invisible like Deebo Samuel in the Super Bowl last year. I forgot the guy was even playing. Okay. And look, I know people want to blame the referees as to why Buffalo lost. I get it. I thought it was an obvious incompletion earlier in the game, and I thought Josh Allen barely got that yard for a 1st down. But if I would have told you before this game started that the Buffalo Bills would have multiple failed 2-point conversions, go 1 for 5 on tush pushes, have multiple fumbles, all recovered, but have multiple fumbles, have a horrible opening drive, and KC would have a flawless opening drive to go up 7-0, that Buffalo would play ultra conservative in the second half, and they couldn't stop KC on their final 2 drives in the 4th quarter to give themselves a chance to win. Would you think Buffalo was going to win this game? Absolutely not. So they failed in certain key aspects of the game that caused them to lose. They could have won, but though, if I told you those things were going to happen, you didn't think the Buffalo was going to win, and they didn't win. I wish they would have won. I had them win the Super Bowl. It's tough for me to watch KC in another Super Bowl like most people, but I got to give it up to Kansas City. They did what they had to do, and Buffalo couldn't take advantage of anything or get stops when they needed them.
Man, I got to give you both your props, man. This was some top-notch commentating and analysis on both games. Clear, concise, well put together thoughts, man. Some of the better I've heard. So with that, I 100% agree. I don't really have nothing to add, man. I know, obviously Kansas City's in our division, so my hate is a little bit different. It's the rivalry, history, hate. My thought is always, of course I'd like to see Buffalo because they've never won a Super Bowl. So it's fun to see teams that have never won it, see how the fans are, see how the people are. Here's some new stories too. I mean, we got now 2 weeks of Super Bowl buildup. What else can they tell me about Patrick Mahomes? I already know. Seen his
Man.
crib. Know he
Yeah.
had another baby. Know
Oh
about the
man.
commercials. Know about his dad. Already know, bro. What they
Hmm.
gonna tell me about Travis Kelsey? I already know. What they gonna tell me? They're gonna Chris Jones. I know him. So they have to give me the Xavier Worthy show now. And D Hop,
Man.
who D Hop, I'm happy
Right.
for. I'm very happy for DeAndre Hopkins, but I heard know his story too. So now I get another, you can't tell me nothing else about Andy Reid, bro. Like we get it. So
Well, I'm going to say you're going to get a lot of Andy Reid because of the
Yeah.
Philly matchup, and this was going to be for his, possible three-peat and history and all
again,
that kind of stuff. You're
yeah,
going to get a heavy dose of Andy Reid.
again, because we had this
And
Super Bowl matchup before.
yeah, watching this game though, I don't know, man. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I don't think games are fixed. But
Yeah.
for some reason, I just think the NFL would love it if Kansas City just three-peated. And for some reason, I
Absolutely.
just think that.
100%.
I don't think they even care about next year. Just this year, just do something that's never been done before. You know what I mean? Just have them three-peat. I don't know. That's just my
They-
thought.
and they're good enough to do it. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah, they're good enough to
Damn.
do it. They don't
Yeah.
look. They would be very, very good if they didn't get the
yes,
every coin
Yeah,
flip
definitely.
call. They would be.
Yeah.
They are a
Yeah,
very, very
man.
good football team with probably the greatest quarterback of our generation, and when it's all said and done, maybe ever. But it would be nice to not have that controversy or those asterisks or whatever else that was on there because it's unnecessary. But I think everyone knows that the only way to beat the Chiefs, you can't beat them by one score because if Mahomes has an opportunity to do that, like if you leave 30 seconds on the clock, you might as well have less 3 minutes. You've got to figure out a way to make sure that the thing comes up 0, or you need to have a double score lead going into the final 5 minutes of that game. Otherwise, you're letting it be a coin flip, and they win most coin flips. It ain't 50-50.
It seems like every
it
seems like every 50-50 call they get.
Yeah.
Everyone. It seems like that was an incomplete pass. That pass, they hit the ground.
It was clearly hit the ground.
Well, how you call that a catch? I don't get it. It's whatever. Okay, yeah. I'm mad talking about it. We can move on.
Yeah, it's gonna be matchup again. I mean, also, and then for the Philly side, I was hoping. I mean, Washington wasn't gonna beat them. I think we all knew that. I never at any point, but I'd hoped because yeah, because I mean the one thing is like I want to see Saquon get busy, and Philly is this is a better matchup. Washington beating them and playing
it is.
the
Washington would
Chiefs,
have got blown out.
Crazy.
Like a 3 touchdown. Yeah, it'd have been terrible. Yeah,
terrible, right?
Bad.
But the issue now is like I got to be honest, and Brian's mentioned this before. The Philly fans, man, you guys are just like chill out, bro. Like honestly, Philly fans are who people try and make the Raider fans out to be. Right? Like, yes, in the past, of course, Oakland, you'd have your issues like that. Philly, man, everything I saw around the whole city. Like if you had a Washington anything on, you were in danger wherever you was at. Maybe it wasn't specifically violent, but they pulling people's hats off, they throwing beers, they
Philly
screaming
fans
at
been
you
like
the
this
whole way
for years, since like the 80s, man. They've been like this for years, dude.
Yeah.
It's like it's not nothing new.
And it
happens
happens
who they are.
Many different stadiums. This isn't an only Philly thing. I get that. But it's just like, come on, man. Like y'all doing the most. So it is what it is.
Yeah. So I think the NFL, the reason why I don't believe in conspiracy theories is because I don't think they have a team that the crowd can get behind. People are sick of KC. They're now the most hated team in America by everyone, not because of any other reason. It's when you win, you get more people who want to hate. That's just how that math works.
Yep.
And then people have always felt, or at least feel, that the Philadelphia fans are classless and they don't want to see them happy. And they talk an awful lot. I know a few, and it's just all season long. Oh, we're like, yeah, okay, great. Y'all won the damn game. Let's all move on. It's frustrating. So there isn't a team that the general public can root for. People rooted for the Giants against Tom Brady because it was a team that hadn't done anything in a while in a major market that was going up against Goliath in a perfect season. People were able to root for that. People rooted for Tampa Bay because Brady was trying to do it again in a new place and, might have been a swan song. People rooted for Matt Stafford. These are not teams that you needed to be a fan of to find a storyline that made sense. In this matchup, I just don't know that there is.
Especially the Saints. Well, here's the thing, though. I just found this out last week. The Chiefs have passed the Cowboys as America's team. They're the most watched team in the NFL. It used to be the Cowboys for years. Every year now it's the Chiefs. I didn't know that.
Taylor Swift has a major effect on that, though.
Yeah.
Major.
Yeah.
Shout out to her and what that did for the league. And the league was not stupid. They're about bread, and we all know this. So is what it is. Well, I'll be watching. So it's gonna be what it's gonna be. All right. So that Super Bowls is coming up. That's your AFC and NFC championship. Let's slide over to these coaches, man. And let's just kind of go down the list.
We got a few, man. Let's start before we get, because the Raiders got a coach and a GM. Let's start with Aaron Glenn, Brian, that just got former defense coordinator of the Detroit Lions. He gets the job with the Jets. How do you feel about that?
I felt like it was a little bit inevitable. I mean, even as things weren't going so hot for Aaron Glenn in Detroit over how the season ended, but it just always seemed like that's the guy that the Jets wanted. I'm not trying to say whether or not he'll be good or bad because I don't have the ability to look at my snow globe and call it a crystal ball. But the reality of it is that they went against the trend and went defensive. They are putting their eggs in a basket that has broken more eggs in careers lately than have succeeded. But, Aaron Glenn has proven that he can do a lot with a little. I mean, the Detroit defense was all types of hobbled throughout the season. They still were decent performers. They still came up with big plays. Anyone in the Dan Campbell camp at this point has, what do you want to call it, Riz, cachet, credit because of how emotionally charged that team was for him and the other assistant coaches. So, I understand why they did it. I'm not sure I believe it works out. But again, like I said, I can't look at my snow globe and call it a crystal ball.
Yeah, I think I feel a little bit like you. I mean, look, Aaron Glenn, he was drafted. I didn't even know he was really a candidate. I thought everybody was on the Ben Johnson train. So I didn't know till late that Aaron Glenn was actually a candidate to be a head coach. But look, he was drafted by the Jets. He played for Bill Parcells, played when Bill Belichick was an assistant. He played for Pete Carroll, and he worked for Sean Payton and Dan Campbell. So he has some experience there. I told you guys when Saleh was with the 49ers, I never thought he was a head coach. I think he was a coordinator only. He was kind of in over his head with the media in New York. He never looked comfortable talking to them, especially when Aaron Rodgers got there. He was always walking back comments he previously made, but he's still a good defensive coach. I don't think the media will be a problem for Aaron Glenn. He can handle the bright lights, the market, the players. He can handle all of that. The coaching is I'm like you, Brian. We just have to see. We have to see what happens. I mean, you know me. I don't really like to go defensive on coaches. But we'll see how it turns out. I don't know if it's good or bad.
The one thing I will
deal with
say
Aaron Rodgers too,
that will disproportionately affect his ability to be successful is whether or not Aaron Rodgers is there.
Yeah.
Robert Saleh was done the minute that Aaron Rodgers was there because Aaron Rodgers doesn't have respect for super tenured coaches. He doesn't have respect for pretty much anyone that doesn't want to line up the way he wants to line up and do things that he wants to do. And so for a first-year coach who comes from a defensive background, when he sits there and says, I want you to go over here and hand the ball off and we're going to be a run-centric team, Aaron Rodgers is not going to want to do that. And he's going to whine and complain and do all that kind of stuff. So, if we find out that Aaron Glenn or the organization has decided that they want to keep Aaron Rodgers for another year, I will tell you right now, Aaron Glenn will not have a good rookie year because Aaron Rodgers is not that dude. But most importantly, he doesn't know how to facilitate success for coaches. I mean, he is a coach killer. Just ask Holmgren, just ask Holland now. That's what he does best.
Deep. Okay. Did we talk about Mike Vrabel?
What about it? We haven't talked about any of the
Nah.
coaches yet.
All right, so Mike Vrabel
Yeah.
to the Patriots, man. He goes back home. I just saw Josh McDaniels is about to be OC again, but Vrabel was a good coach. What do you think about his chance to do something in New England?
Roster build. He has to build that roster. Oh, go ahead, B.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead. You're already starting.
Yeah. I was gonna say he's gonna have to build that roster. I mean, I think he's a good coach as well. I think he shouldn't have been fired in Tennessee, but this is New England's get. But he definitely has to build that roster because they don't have one. Obviously, he went there. Well, he even said he went there because they do have a quarterback that he can work with, but you have to build something around him. So that's the first thing. After roster building, we'll see what happens. So I think it's going to be at least a couple years before New England can make any noise. But there should be some toughness and some improvement with that team trending upward with New England next season with him as the coach. Brian, what you think?
Start with saying I hope that he fails. And the reason why I hope that he fails is Gerard Mero didn't deserve this. And I feel like the organization felt obligated to make a hire and never really gave him a chance. I mean, it was either, it was sort of like he was coaching the Titans, one loss and it was going to be, the end of the season. He didn't get the opportunity that they're going to give Vrabel to build the roster because the roster sucks. The roster doesn't have talent on it. Yep. Gerard Mero didn't go over there and try and draft Drake May. Drake May looks like he might actually pan out to be a decent quarterback, not great, not an all-star or an all-pro or anything like that, but he might be a serviceable one. But anyway, so I'll start off by saying I hope he doesn't. That being said, Mike Vrabel has a track record of success. He's considered a culture coach. He has a track record of, having been a Patriots guy in the past. So, everything about this hire makes sense. I feel like they made this hire last year and Gerard Mayo was just kind of a placeholder.
Yeah, I gotta disagree with you on the Gerard Mayo thing. He should have been fired after the things that I read.
I know what you think. I'm just telling you. I'm not telling you what I think.
I'm telling you what I read. Players had a problem, and ownership had a problem with his discipline. The team had no discipline. He didn't have discipline as a coach. When the assistant coaches were going over film, he was playing cards with the players. I mean, the team was not disciplined. He was too player friendly, and players didn't even like it. Players went to craft.
You know all that, and you read all that.
Players went to yes, I read all that. Players went to craft. Players went to craft.
Name one player who went on the record. Because I read all the same stuff. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is exactly the point I was trying to make. They built a narrative that made it easy for him to get fired.
So you don't think none of that is true? Do you think the team was very disciplined?
I don't know which parts of it are true or how extreme it was. He might have been playing cards with the dude one time, and they're like, all season he wasn't doing anything. All I'm saying is he was never going to get a shot. I could have told you that last year. I think I did. That he was not the guy that they really wanted to hire. And Mike Vrabel always has been. And I just think that's how that worked out.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah,
fair enough.
It could be.
Let's slide to Dallas and Brian Schottenheimer.
But they don't have they have a coach?
Brian Schottenheimer.
Who the hell is that? Where you come from?
Son of Marty.
Yeah.
Brian let me go ahead. Y'all talk about. I'm about to Google him. Go ahead.
No, that was a perfect reaction. I'm so glad to catch that live. That's perfect. That's perfect.
There you go. Yeah, this happened a little while ago, but look, he stayed on it. He basically stayed on the team. I think the reason he got hired is because he is a Jerry Jones guy. Jerry Jones has shown that he thinks he finds gold on the offensive coordinator positions and therefore wants to promote and have people that have been in the house and all that kind of stuff. I kind of understand getting rid of McCarthy. It's not that McCarthy was bad or good or anything else. It's that he wasn't going to do anything different this year or next year.
Yep.
I don't think anyone has any possibility of being successful with a Jerry Jones ran franchise because he is uninterested in building a team that wins football games. He's more interested in building a team that builds headlines. And, that doesn't require a good coach. So I don't think this works out. I don't know that is because of Brian Schottenheimer. I think it has more to do with an organization that's not going the right direction and really doesn't have a plan to go to the right direction. And even taking it a step further, I don't think has a desire to go to the right direction. I don't think Jerry Jones believes realistically that they're going to win another championship in his lifetime. And so he just wants to stay relevant and have people interviewing him. And he wants the adulation and he wants the hate too, because both of those things keep your name in the stars.
Wow.
Brian Schottenheimer, okay, he was the offense coordinator for the team, so he was already there. So basically, it's a guy that Jerry Jones can control or whatever. Mike McCarthy, I'm really keeping. Mike McCarthy is like Mike Tomlin and Sean Payton. They're just living off Super Bowls from a decade ago. I mean, he's probably going to get another coaching job because he won a Super Bowl long time ago. So,
Gotcha.
I mean, I don't think this makes the Cowboys better. I don't think it makes the Cowboys worse. I just think it makes the Cowboys the same, just the Cowboys. Just enough to Jerry does enough to make them relevant, but they're not going to be like a threat to, win anything significant or major. So I had to Google who this guy was. I didn't even know. I was being perfectly honest with you. So
I love it. I love that reaction. Yeah. I mean, we know Marty Schottenheimer, so his dad
I know
has
Marty, right.
history, crazy years
He was
of
a good
coaching.
coach.
So
He was a good coach though. Never won it, but he was a good
Marty.
coach.
Yeah. So
yeah.
You got that going. So that's the Cowboys. What about Jacksonville and Liam Coen?
This was interesting, Brian. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, interesting was the drama, right? So, he was the leading candidate. They had released a report that he was all but signed, and then he said, "I'm withdrawing my name." Went back to Tampa Bay, signed something. The Jacksonville Jaguars then fired Trent Baalke, the GM. Apparently, stories are mixed about it, but apparently because he had messed up the negotiation or said something that made the deal go sour. So Trent Baalke got out, and then the very next day, he changes his mind and goes back over to Jacksonville. So it was it's one of those that, put it this way, I guarantee they're going to be one of the early favorites to be on
Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks show.
Yeah.
And they'll start covering all that pretty immediately. Look, there's talent on this team. I'm not a huge Trevor Lawrence fan, although I don't think he's as bad as I think Jason thinks he is. But Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby and Brian Thomas Jr. These are really talented players who could possibly, it's a weak division. It's not hard to win a division when you're playing, the Colts and some of these other garbage teams. So it's not a bad situation to take your shot. I don't know enough about Liam Coen. I think he's getting obviously a lot of credit for being there when Baker Mayfield went rock star. But I think that's more about, Baker Mayfield's gambling style. Some of the times it won't pay off and some of the times it will pay off. And Liam Coen was in the driver's seat when it did pay off. So I just don't know enough about him, his style, how he's going to build an offense that isn't Baker Mayfield centric, because if you think that Trevor Lawrence is going to do what Baker Mayfield was doing, you've fooled yourself. They're just two different people, quarterbacks, categories, style. So I don't know enough about Liam to say whether or not he can be successful. I do think that it's a better opportunity than some because they do have talent on the offensive side of the ball, which is where he comes from.
Yeah, Liam Coen was there after David Canales. David Canales was the one who really elevated Baker Mayfield and left to Carolina, and Liam Coen took over this year. But look, Tampa Bay offered him $4.5 million to stay as the offense coordinator. He was going to be the highest paid coordinator in the NFL, and they did that because they wanted him to be the kind of the head coach in waiting, sort of like Gerard Mayo with New England. They wanted to get rid of Bowles, just not right now. Eventually, they were going to get rid of Bowles and then let him be the coach. But he decided to take what happened was he turned down Jacksonville, and I think it didn't take Shad Khan, the owner of Jacksonville, long to realize the reason why people keep turning down this job is because these interviewers turn down the jobs because Trent Baalke is the GM. He fires GM Trent Baalke, and then the next day, Liam Coen accepts the position. So, good for Liam Coen to get Trent Baalke out of there. Like I said, he was a politician. I don't know why he always keeps his job. He's been doing because as soon as things go south or things don't.
What are you talking about? He's going to end up right back with y'all.
No, it ain't gonna happen. As soon as things go south, he stabs you in the back to the owner. But yeah, I agree with you. Jacksonville has some talent. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is terrible. I just don't think he's as good as the hype that he's always received after watching him at Clemson
Hmm.
for 3 straight years. But
Hmm.
he got a lot of his hype. He got a lot of his hype as a freshman win the national championship. They were the best team in football, and he never actually repeated. Not going to the national championship, but never really repeated how good he played that freshman year because the team wasn't as good as it was his freshman year. And I think he was living off of that and got drafted because of it. But we'll see what he does in Jacksonville. Like you said, Brian, this is a pretty winnable division. You only really have Houston to compete with. And so a playoff spot could be for the taking in his first year. But we'll see how it turns out as him as a head coach.
This felt like a very Jacksonville hire. I'll say it. I'll just put it
Yeah.
like that. Like it felt very Jacksonville. Like
Yeah.
dude had one good season. From what I'm reading, I wasn't really
I think
Yeah. Just one season.
from what I've
That's it.
read
with no
and
experience.
over the years, the owner Shad Khan always wants to be thought of as the smartest guy in the room, and so he always
Yeah.
wants to do the thing that's like people are going to be like, how did he do that? And so
Yeah.
Sure.
maybe
He's
this
like-
is going to be that move, and maybe it's not. But
Yeah.
I do think that he's a owner who will take a chance.
Yeah.
Because he wants to do something that nobody else saw. Because I do not believe Liam
wants to
Coen was on
be-
the list for anyone else.
Yeah, he wants to be a kingmaker. That's what he wants to be.
Yeah.
Like Daniel Snyder was the same thing. He wanted to be a kingmaker. Say, look at what I did. Look who I found. I got this guy. So yeah.
Don't worry. All right.
So let's talk
Ben
about
Johnson.
your GM, man. GM been your coach.
Well, we got to do Ben Johnson first, right?
I
Ben
was gonna
Johnson,
leave him
yeah.
last because he was the
Okay.
pride of the coaching cycle. But up to you
Oh,
guys.
I was going to leave the Raiders last because they're the pride of
you.
of our show.
Well, we go. All right. Well,
You guys pick.
Let's
go to Ben
You guys
Johnson.
pick.
Let's
Yeah,
go
I'm
to
not
Ben
tripping.
Johnson then.
I'm not tripping.
Yeah.
How you feel about Ben Johnson going to Caleb Williams, Brian?
I mean, this was a foregone conclusion, right? I think we pretty much predicted this in the middle of the season that, it would be out for the Bears coach and Ben Johnson. And it was kind of surprising that they did it in division, but at the same time, it makes a lot of sense. I hate the Bears. But I can't help but root for Ben Johnson and at least a little bit. I want him to be just successful enough to be the second team in the division behind the Vikings every single year, or third behind the Packers. But here's the thing: this team is chock full of money. They've got a quarterback with talent in its second season of a rookie deal. They have players like Romeo Dunze. They've got DJ Moore. They've got Cole Kmet. And $100 and something million in cap space. This is by far the best opportunity that a coach could have gotten. And so I am happy that a first-time coach was able to, get that type of an opportunity. Too often they get the crap opportunities. I think this is a better possibility of good things happening. Reluctantly, I think that because I really don't want to see that in the division. But this was a smart hire. They went and got somebody who has the cachet. It's on the offensive side. It takes advantage of the people they have. He knows how to build a strong offense over time. He will be able to take running backs and put them in the position to actually be good. Unlike almost all the Bears coaches in the last 4 or 5. So hats off to them for what I think is a pretty smart decision.
Cool.
Yeah. This is not a home run hire. I mean, there's some things bad with the Bears. That's why the job is open. Number one, he has to fix Caleb Williams, whether he likes him or not. Caleb Williams likes to hold the ball too long. That's why he takes a lot of sacks and everything like that. So, he has to be able to fix Caleb Williams for him to be successful. Number two, he can't go to the owner, and that's not how the Bears work. He has to answer to the general manager, Ryan Poles, who isn't good at his job, and the team president, Kevin Warren, which is really weird. Usually the coach can talk to the owner. He can't talk to the owner. And there's a lot of people that have contacts to the owner. He's not one of them. That's just how the Bears are run. So I don't think that's great. The Bears are owned by the McCaskey family, and they run the Bears like a mom and pop shop. So, ownership matters in the NFL. So, we'll see how that goes. The positive is, though, he's in the division that he knows. And if he can fix Caleb Williams, he will get a lot of credit for that as well. He knows all the teams in the division, and his offense is proven to work in the NFL. The cupboard isn't bare in Chicago. That they have some people that probably make plays in his offense. So that's another good thing. Another good thing is he has Dennis Allen as his defense coordinator, which is a good choice. But his GM Ryan Poles, he's bad. Ryan Poles, he was an offensive lineman. Ryan Poles was an offensive lineman for Matt Ryan in Boston College. So you would think as a former offensive lineman, like Andy Reid or Matt Campbell, he will understand the importance of building lines, the trenches, but he builds the team as if he played wide receiver like Kyle Shanahan. He just ignores linemen. I don't know why. So I think for Ben Johnson to have a chance, I think Ryan Poles needs to be fired. I really think that for him to have just a fighting chance. I don't hate the Bears or or like the Bears. I mean, I hope it works out. I would like to see, that offense, the offense go, that team be good. But I'm also on record as saying, about a year or so ago, I look at Ben Johnson as just coordinator, not a head coach. He just doesn't give me head coaching vibes. We'll see. But like I said, I hope it works out for the Bears. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I thought this was the best of the opportunities, again, because of cap space and having positions. The second best is the one that's not filled yet, and that's the Saints for me. But
their cap space is tough. They're going to have to get rid of some people.
Yeah. They're gonna have to get rid of some. Oh, you were talking about New Orleans. The thing about New Orleans is they keep coaches. They had the GM forever. They've kept coaches forever. You sign a 5-year deal, you're more than likely going to get 4 or 5 years. That's whereas if you ask Gerard Mayo, and like there was never a chance. They had to give him the job because he was the coach in waiting. But it was always obvious that they really wanted Vrabel to be there.
And the Bears have had some winning seasons. Unlike Jacksonville, all they do is lose. So I mean,
Jacksonville.
They got rid of Lovie Smith after he dared have a winning season for him.
Jacksonville won a playoff game against your favorite quarterback not too long ago, and then they went to the Super Bowl 20 or not Super Bowl. They went to the AFC Championship.
AFC Championship, yeah.
No, they went with Bortles, bruh. That year they had that crazy defense against the Patriots, which is nuts.
They were called I forgot they called their defense and they sucked the next year.
Saxonville.
Jacksonville, that terrible nickname,
and they had Jalen Ramsey. They had defensive squad, but it didn't last. So
that's 3 seasons.
Yeah,
about 50.
I think you make a good point about the biggest thing for me on the Bears is the offensive line. You make a great point because that Detroit offense was great, but their offensive linemen, as a football fan, I just watched the line. Them boys is nice.
I was saying all season. They are a running team, and their offensive line leads the way. They are very good. They drafted some very good players.
And then they had great running backs, with Gibbs and Montgomery. Like you're gonna have to do some drafting, to your point, to create that. But a good coach, a good offensive coordinator can work with what he has and make something. This is where I think you see where people earn their checks, because that's a lot harder.
They also had a lot of injuries in Detroit on their offensive line, and he was able to fill the gaps with not the starters. So he's shown that he can do things with injuries.
He gonna have to. All right, so we talked about that. The Saints is still open, and then the other one, Las Vegas Raiders hired Pete Carroll. I don't even want to talk.
No, wait. Let's talk about your GM, man. You got to talk about your GM, John Spytek. I think that was an important hire. I think we should go there first.
He seems like he's nice. Go ahead, Coop. Go ahead.
No, the reason why, I mean, he was Jason Light's right-hand man in Tampa Bay as an assistant GM. Now he's the GM for the Raiders. He's clearly a Tom Brady influenced pick.
Yeah.
Not because he's just from Tampa Bay, but Brady played with him at Michigan. Spytek was a freshman at Michigan when Brady was there. And obviously later they connected again in Tampa Bay. The good thing about Aaron Glenn and Spytek is that they've both been in different situations, both winning and losing, so they have a lot of experience. Now, though he has a lot of experience, though, I think it's interesting, Glenn, because no matter what his relationship is with Brady, Brady ain't in the office every day. He's still doing TV and staying in Florida. He has to deal with Mark Davis on a daily basis, and we've seen what has happened under his watch. But
I think he'll be fine.
But look, the Jets and Raiders, they're not easy jobs. They're places where people get paid a lot of money and get fired quickly, but I don't think it's going to happen with Spy Tech. I'm not going to get into Pete Carroll yet, but I think Spy Tech will help you because he knows how to roster build, and that's what the Raiders need is a roster. But I'll stop there, and we'll
Yeah.
go to Pete Carroll later. Go, Brian, you got anything to say about this hire?
No, I mean, you said all the big things, which is this has obviously got Brady's stamp all over it.
All of it.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean,
Right.
he didn't go and try and make himself the guy. He tried to find somebody that he trusted to do it, and that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I'll jump into Carroll unless Glenn, you want to say something.
I was gonna say, so Coop, a couple weeks ago, you spoke at like it was one of the end segments. You talked about the Raiders, and it was actually a very, I thought you spoke very poignantly on it. It wasn't from a place of hate. It was like Mark Davis isn't the football guy, and I think what I'll say is I feel like he knows that. Al Davis was the football guy, so for a long
Yeah.
time he was an innovator. He was the most knowledgeable person about football in the building, for good or bad
Yeah.
at times, right? So he would make decisions he didn't need to. It feels like what Mark does want to win. I think, like you said, it feels like that, and he's trying to get with people to put people in positions to let them do their jobs. I don't feel like it's Jerry Jones or anyone else where he's jumping in telling you to get this guy or don't sign this guy or don't move
Yeah.
that guy. He has his guys he likes from what I've seen, but I think he's trying to stay out the way and win because he doesn't know, and I respect
Yeah.
that. So he had players as advisors, he had other people as advisors, and now he has Tom Brady in there. And it sounds like, to your point, he's kind of let him do it. Spy
Yeah.
Tech was influential in bringing Brady to the Bucks. Was right there when they built a Super Bowl roster. He was also with Denver. I didn't realize that in their front office when they went to the Super Bowl. A Super Bowl I watched with Brian at the old house. There's a picture of me asleep on the ground with the kids climbing on me because I was having so much fun laughing at the Broncos get smoked by the Seahawks. Which is funny because now Pete Carroll comes to coach, but I think so too, Coop. I think they were trying to, kind of like you were saying about Mayo earlier, though. I think Antonio Pierce was in the same spot. If AP didn't win 8 to 10 games his first year and have that team on the climb, he was out of there. And it just kind of is
We'll
what
talk
it
about
is.
him. I'll
So
bring him up later.
I agree. I know, Coop. I know what you're gonna say because you say the same thing. But and I can't, it's hard to argue with the record is the problem and some of the decisions and learning. But to Brian's points earlier is he wasn't ever given a chance. The roster wasn't built to win, and he wasn't going to give a shot to try and build it and try and, build the culture and do all that. But now you got a coach in there, you got an adult in the room, someone who's done it. So Pete
I
Carroll's the
can't
coach.
believe y'all are Antonio Pierce fans. But I'll talk about him in a minute when we talk to Pete
Yeah,
Carroll.
so Pete Carroll's the coach. Y'all go for it. No, I'll
Go
get
ahead.
mine
No,
at the end.
Pete, you
Yeah.
start with Pete Carroll. And then Glenn, you
the
go.
main thing is I don't think was hired because of his coaching prowess. I imagine you're going to get a bunch of veteran GMs, one of which will be a coach in waiting or something along the associate head coach. Pete Carroll's old. That's not trying to be mean. That's just a reality. But I think what they wanted, first, they wanted Ben Johnson. And Brady really, really wanted Ben Johnson. Worked really hard, couldn't get him. He went to the Bears because it was a better situation.
They never gave him an offer, but go ahead. There's never an offer from the Raiders.
No, I know, but that's who they
But
wanted. I think Ben Johnson made it clear that he wanted
Right. He didn't want to be there.
the $68 million in cap space plus 3 offensive stars. But anyways, Pete Carroll gives them something that they have that they've needed. Again, you called it the adult in the room or something like that, but in a couple of years, it's only a 3-year deal, which is, shows that they understand to some extent that he is, not the youngest person there. I imagine that when he transitions out of coaching, whether that's in 1 year or 2 years, my guess is after 2 years, that he will immediately go into a front office position to work with Spy Tech and be part of building the Raider culture and doing all that behind the scenes. I think that's the reason why they went with this hire, because I think they understand that they're not a year away they're not going to become the Washington Commanders and go from there to the Super Bowl. They have a little bit of a harder road ahead of them. But I do think that Carroll will be part of the organization for beyond the 3-year contracts, probably not as a coach. And I think that's the way they look at this hire. And I think it's a pretty smart decision. I mean, if you accept that you're not 15 minutes from a Super Bowl, then you decide how you're going to build that. You do that by getting smart people in the room who know how to build a team. And, you work your way in that direction. And hopefully, I would imagine when they figure out the whole staff, there's going to be some really strong folks that are going to be part of the staff there.
Go ahead, GB. I'll go last on this one.
All right, so Pete Carroll will be 4 years younger than your current president when he goes in, and
Yeah, look how that's working out.
a much better physical specimen, I would say. Pause. But Pete Carroll's a guy that is taking care of himself, that knows football, that's won in previous spots. I think for me, the biggest thing that this adds is a level of validity. Our coaching in our division is unlike any other division in the league, really. I mean, maybe you have a division you can think of, but I can't think of one where every coach has been to a Super Bowl. I can't think of one where damn near every coach has won a Super Bowl, where coaches have national championships in college, etc. So it made sense to me to get a veteran in there, somebody that knew. Ben Johnson sounds good, sounds amazing. It's great, great offensive mind. To your point, B, no quarterback yet. Got to figure out what that's going to look like. How are you going to build offense? All of that. I think having another rookie coach in our division would have been a mistake, because there's too many real talk coaches in there, bro. You can't.
Yep.
Ben Johnson, what was he about to do with Andy Reid, and then the next week playing Sean Payton, and then the next week playing Jim Harbaugh? Like, it's not a joke out there. Now the Vikings are playing good football. LaFleur's good, but we've also seen those teams can be beat. He knows the Lions. It's a better. I understand why you'd say it's a better situation for sure, especially with the offense. I'm excited about it, honestly. I like the I think it makes a lot of sense to get a veteran, to get people in there, like you guys said, that know football, that are proven, have won before. The age thing doesn't, I don't know. I guess as I age and I see people now who are in my family and people I know who I'm actually around who are late 60s, 70s, it's not, 1990, 1985, 7 years old. I think there's a little bit different situations there, but I think Pete will be fine. 3-year deals, what the Raiders have been given to every coach that's been coming in damn near except Gruden. So we'll see what happens, and we'll go from there, but I'm pretty excited about it. Cool.
Did you see real quickly,
Oh, you good?
see
Go
when
ahead.
Mark Davis was talking about Pete Carroll coming on, and he talked about Gruden and how that whole situation was like having their the head cut off and to put the position. I thought it was interesting because I didn't think he was throwing shade at Gruden. I think he was saying he wanted
Gruden, bro.
Yeah, he wanted Gruden, and they had to adjust to a situation that
always wanted.
It almost sounded like supportive of Gruden.
He always wanted Gruden. Gruden was the last, our last
even
coach that won
after all the stuff went sideways.
Yeah, he was always our coach.
Look, I didn't even know Pete Carroll was a candidate. When I first saw, I text you guys, I was extremely surprised, and that just made me think the Raiders are just all over the map when it comes to coaches, man. It's like they go from a TV guy to Gruden to Josh McDaniels, who pretty much was running a scam, convincing people he can coach.
I don't know if you can call Gruden a TV guy, but okay.
He was on TV.
I mean,
he was a TV guy. He wasn't coaching. He was
Everyone's
on TV.
Yeah,
he was on TV.
Power.
Right. He'd coached a couple times. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. He's on TV for 7-8 years, running the same place, whatever. And then he went to Josh McDaniels. Who pretty much was running a scam on everybody, convincing people he can coach, and he really can't. He only excels in one place.
I'm quiet
in
on
one
that.
position. As an offense coordinator in New England, reporting to Kraft. That's the only time. Then they go to a complete embarrassment of a hire with Antonio Pierce, who got the job because 2 players liked him. And then the following season, those 2 players turned on him. But whatever. And now, watching Antonio Pierce coach, that's how I got to say this. It was like watching Jim Tom Sula and Urban Meyer coaching. I was saying to myself, when is this going to end? I cannot be the only person that sees how terrible this guy is coaching. Talking about bring him back. For what? But anyway, unlike past hires, I completely understand hiring Pete Carroll because it's clear, number one, Pete Carroll wants to coach. He's been trying to get back in the NFL, and he wants to coach.
Well, he wanted a year off, but he's only been a year off.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, Belichick wanted to coach in the NFL too, but the difference is nobody wanted anything to do with Belichick. Pete Carroll had some suitors. So even though I think Pete is a little bit phony, I applaud him at 73 still having the passion to coach. He's like a football lifer, like an Andy Reid or something. And I said before, Pierce was not fired because the Raiders were not a wild card contender when they didn't win 9 games. He was fired because the team had no positive momentum. How could you with a guy who doesn't know what he's doing? It's like down being 8-0 in the 6th inning of a baseball game. You're not looking for a solo home run. You just want to get a guy on base and another guy on base and perhaps start a rally and get some momentum. That's what the Raiders need. They need momentum, and Pete Carroll gives them a fighting chance. He gives them a chance. Now, I still don't think the Raiders are going to be good. I don't think they have a quarterback, and I don't think they have the path to get a quarterback, but the expectations are set so low for the Raiders that the Raiders don't need to make a big leap. All they need to do is just make progress. That's it. Just make some progress. Pete Carroll's been coaching since he's 73. He's been coaching since he was in his 40s. So he's a guy that knows what he's doing.
I think
But the
20s,
thing,
bro. I
yeah,
think he's got like 50 years of coaching. Go ahead.
probably
Yep.
head coaching is what I mean. But the
Yeah,
thing
sure,
is,
sure.
the good thing about Spy Tech and the good thing about Carroll is that they know how to build a roster. That's what the Raiders need. This is not a good roster. They're only two good players that other good teams want. That's Bowers and Crosby. Everybody else in the Raiders
Sure.
roster, no one cares about. So when Pete Carroll got to Seattle, he got rid of about 40 people that first year and brought in other guys. I see him in Spy Tech making some changes with that roster, which will be a good thing for the Raiders. So I think it's a good hire for the Raiders, getting Carroll and Spy Tech. I think they nailed the GM and nailed the coach because not anybody could take this job. And like you said, Glenn, they needed a veteran. You can't roll Antonio Pierce every year against Harbaugh, Reed, and Carroll. Harbaugh, Reed, and Payton.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. You got to get somebody that knows what he's doing. They got somebody.
I
So
felt the same way
I
with
think
all
the
the
Raiders
rookie
will improve.
coaches.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think they're going to improve this year.
that's
They'll
funny.
be trending upward. The Raiders are going to trend upward.
Hey, I'll
Yeah.
take it. Give me some players from Madden, man. That's what I need.
That's funny.
But
That's
yeah,
funny.
I'm excited about it. B, anything
I
else?
said
Oh,
my
I
piece.
thought you froze. All right, for sure. I think we're actually almost at about an hour, guys.
We
Keep it
are.
real with
Okay.
you. Yeah, that's kind of what I
Okay.
figured would happen. Coop, let's do this next week because all we
That's
got
all
is
good.
Super Bowl. Like literally,
Yeah,
all
it's
we
all
got is
good.
Super Bowl. So let's definitely bring it up
Yeah,
next
we'll
week.
have some topics next week, no doubt.
Let's
Yeah.
do that. So last few segments, game balls. Who y'all got?
Who's your game ball going to, Brian?
I don't know. I'll give it to Jaden Daniels. I know he lost, but he played
Hell of
a
a season.
solid game, and
Hell of a
it's a
season.
hell of a season. And I don't want to give it to anybody else, so I'm gonna give it to him.
It's your
Actually,
game ball. You can do that.
The other person I would give it to is Tiger Woods and Rory, who had their matchup in TGL yesterday, which was awesome. It was an awesome matchup. But this arena golf thing that they're doing is becoming very intriguing very quickly.
Mine is Saquon Barkley, man. Enough said. Go ahead.
Yeah, mine game ball is going to Kansas City Chiefs defense coordinator Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah,
I
he's a
mean,
beast.
along with Mahomes, man, along with Mahomes and Reed, he's a huge reason why this team is a dynasty, man. And they have all the elements. They have a head coach, they got a quarterback, impact player on offense, a defense coordinator in Spags, and an impact player on defense in Chris Jones, man. I just don't think he gets enough credit. So, I mean, hats off to him.
He really
gets my
knows how
game
to
ball.
step it up in the playoffs.
Man, he does.
One thing's
Yes.
for sure. He definitely
Yes.
knows how to play in the playoffs.
Yes.
Pretty tough during the
Yes.
season too. We see him a lot.
Man.
Good stuff. Hogwash.
I don't even have one. Be honest with you, I don't have
You
one.
could
this
say
week.
NFL refs every week and you'll be set.
I don't have one. I'm gonna abstain on this one, Glenn. You could take it.
Mine was Philadelphia fans, man. Y'all got to chill out, bro. It's just,
Man,
I get it. I get the passion, and this isn't, from a judgmental place. I'm a Raider fan. I'm all Raider down right now. I get it. I've seen the fights. I've seen the stuff thrown. I don't think it's good when Raider fans did it, but at some point, man, chill out, bro. Like, win the game. A little heckling is cool, but people shouldn't be in damn near danger trying to walk to the the train station to get home.
Yeah.
B?
I'm just going to go take one more shot at the Patriots organization for what they did.
Fair.
Bunch of hogwash to give that man that job last year, knowing full well
He wouldn't do
that
it.
they felt like they had to because he was the coach in waiting when Belichick finally retired. He'd been there for a long time, but they knew full well what they were going to do with him.
Once Vrabel was available, yeah, true indeed. And then minute to win it. Coop, me and you, and then we'll let B finish it.
Yeah, I'm a thank the people, everyone that listens to this podcast, and specifically, I'm thanking everybody who texts me or I talk to on the phone or see in public that say they enjoy listening to the information that we all provide on this show. We're not just hyping up our teams or hyping up other players, but we're actually giving out statistics and things that we see in our personal analysis of these games. And I appreciate everybody that enjoys listening to it. So thank you all for listening and the feedback.
100% agree. Mine is, I'm gonna just give mine to the Maury family. Thanks for hosting me last week. Had a great time down there with the family. Learned a new game called Sky Joe with my niece and nephews. That was fun.
Sky Joe.
It's a cool little numbers game.
It's a little card game, yeah. I
my
put them
niece
on
put
it
me
because
on.
you can Yeah, I
It's
put him on it a while ago. It was fun to watch you guys play.
it's smart, gives a little math. So that was a great time. Got to play golf with my brother and Chuck and Mike. Shout out to my guys. That's always a great time down there. So that's where mine is. And shout out to all my people in LA. The fires are subsiding for sure. I didn't see anything when I was
Yep.
there, but the
Yep.
devastation is going to last way beyond. So
Yeah, and it doesn't help when you've got a president who is defunded FEMA today, took away school meals for kids who in need, got rid of Medicaid funding later this afternoon, banned all transgender military personnel all the way up to the levels of commander and major from being in the military. And about 100 other things over the course of the last week. We're only in like week 2 of his reign of terror, and it is already exactly that, terrible in every way, shape, or form. We have one of the. This is more a joke than anything else, but the one thing that all these people who were voting for is like, oh, we need to get the cost of eggs down. Well, guess what, everyone? The cost of eggs are way up because we have a bird flu epidemic, but you can't hear about it because he also banned the CDC from talking to the public anymore. So we're not allowed to actually talk about the fact that we have a bird flu epidemic, which is causing the problem with eggs going up. And in Los Angeles, we have a rather large shortage of it. The only place you can get it is Costco. So with all that negativity, I'm going to finish off with one positive thing, and that is, on Friday we had an anniversary of Glenn's dad passing, and I got to spend it with Glenn, and that meant all the world to me. So my heart goes out to him, and hope he's looking down on us and having a great time.
perfectly said, my brother. Well done. January 28th, 2025. We will catch y'all next week. Peace.